was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Familiar, right? Well, it should be. It is from A Tale of Two Cities. Do you know anything else about this book, though? No! That's what I thought. Guys, I'm here to educate you. What's up, guys? My name is Moo. I'm a college student who loves reading, and I'm here to share that love with all of you. My cat is right in front of me, sunbathing. He's so cute. But he is a wheezy little guy. We've checked it out. He's okay. But he is a wheezy little guy. So if you hear wheezy breathing in the video at all, that's just my kitty. And he's okay, I promise. As of right now, it is June 9th. I think this is the last day that I am filming before I go and live in a different country for 7 weeks. I'm going to study abroad in Korea, which is why I'm pre-filming so much. Unfortunately, that means some of the videos are going to be filmed pretty far in advance. The videos that you have been seeing around May and June have been filmed in March, and the ones that are going to be in June and July were filmed in May, and the ones that you'll see in August are going to be filmed in June. It's just a whole thing. But that is so that I can get content out to you guys. I really hope that I'm able to edit everything up and get it out so that I don't have to miss an upload even while I am in a foreign country. But enough of that. Let's get into the book review. Now, I don't blindly read classics. I definitely look at the summary before I decide to read them. But I will be completely honest, I did not remember the summary of this at all. Like, before reading this, if you told me to tell you what happens in A Tale of Two Cities, I'd probably go, I don't know, there's probably 2 cities. And I feel like a lot of people, especially a lot of Americans, not because we're dumb, just because a lot of people have never read this book, do not know what this book is about, even though they've heard of it. Obviously, I think most of us have heard of A Tale of Two Cities. Most of us have heard the famous opening line. But what is this book about? Well, that is what I am here for. I am here to talk to you about A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Let us start with the summary. The storming of the Bastille, the death carts with their doomed human cargo, the swift drop of the guillotine blade. This is the French Revolution that Charles Dickens vividly captures in his famous work, A Tale of Two Cities. With dramatic eloquence, he brings to life a time of terror and treason, a starving people rising in frenzy and hate to overthrow a corrupt and decadent regime. With insight and compassion, Dickens casts his novel of unforgettable scenes with some memorable characters: sinister Madame Defarge, knitting her patterns of death; gentle Lucy Manette, unswerving in her devotion to her broken father; Charles Darnay, the lover with a secret past; and the dissolute Sidney Carton, whose unlikely heroism gives his life meaning. Well, there we have it. It's about the French Revolution. I did not know that before I reread the summary right before reading this book. I think that's so interesting. Like, the phenomenon of A Tale of Two Cities being such a well-known title of a book. And everyone knows, oh yeah, A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Like, da-da-da-da. But like, I was kind of polling people as I was reading it, and I was just like, does anybody know what this is about? And like, even my friends in college who like are some of the smartest people I know, just, they don't know what it's about. And I just find that so interesting that there is a classic out there that so many people just don't really know the plot of. So, allow me to walk you through the book. Before that, we'll go through the major characters that I believe will be most important when following the book. So first, you have Charles Darnay and Sidney Carton. Now, I think the wonderful thing about reading is you can make the characters look however you want in your head. And like, don't get me wrong, I know people have like the liberty to imagine whoever they want as the characters, and sometimes when it is ambiguous enough in all, like for example, if it says oh, the person has dark skin and dark hair, but it's like, okay, but like the author probably intended it to be a white guy, I'm gonna be like, no, like let's add some diversity to the cast. However, what I do love about books is that you can kind of make them look however you want in your head as you're reading, and that's fun for me, because like when I was reading Darnay and Carton, I was thinking of this and this. These photos have been in my files for months as of filming this, so even longer when this comes out, as Yassified Carton and Yassified Darnay, which like doesn't make much sense, but that's just how I put them in there, so cool. But yes, Yassified Carton and Yassified Darnay. But you know, it's a more pleasant read when all of the people in the book are beautiful. So why not, you know? Anyways, so Charles Darnay is a Frenchman from a noble family who came to England in order to escape his noble birth because he just hated the way the peasants of France were being treated. So he came to England. He was accused of treason, but he got out of it and he fell in love with Lucy Manette. Lucy Manette is the female lead of this book. She's the female lead of this book. Unfortunately, in the foreword of the version of the book I have, it said that like Charles Dickens, who was in his 40s or 50s, was in a play with this girl named Lucy or something like that, and started like falling in love with her even though he was a married man in his 40s and she was like 18, like she was young, if not younger than that. So she's based off of something that's kind of creepy, but she's there. She is French born, but she was raised in England. She has a French father and an English mother. The story opens with her wanting to find her father because he just disappeared right as she was born and she had no idea why. Her father, Mr. Manette, is a very troubled character because he got kidnapped and imprisoned for doing nothing. Like, he was wrongly imprisoned for decades, and he kind of went into mental decay and started making shoes, and whenever he feels a lot of trauma and PTSD, he makes shoes, which is like a really compelling thing to read. That was so interesting, but we'll get into the plot soon. And then you have Sidney Carton, who is just this troubled character. He's like the bad boy of A Tale of Two Cities. Bet you wouldn't get a bad boy in Tale of Two Cities. But he just kind of doesn't understand the meaning of life. He doesn't understand his place in the world. And that aids in a lot of really interesting character development for later too. On the other side, you have the French Defarge couple. You have Monsieur Defarge and Madame Defarge. I don't speak French. I took a year of French in high school, and the only thing I got out of it was a really cool song. But if I butcher the names, I apologize. Not my intention. So French people, please don't be mean to me. I'm just a girl. I'm just an American girl. But anyways, Monsieur and Madame Defarge are huge leaders of the French resistance movement that would later turn into the French Revolution, which is very heavily covered in the last third of this book. The first 2/3 kind of set up the massive climax at the end of the French Revolution and all of the things that go down within this group of people. But the story, while kind of slow at first, is still quite compelling. Another character that's quite important is Mr. Lorry. He's an Englishman, he's a banker, he helps reunite Lucy with her father, and he plays a pretty big role through it all. He kind of is just there a lot of the time, but he helps them out. But I thought he was worth mentioning. So the plot starts with Mr. Lorry meeting with Lucy and she asks to help find her father. He agrees, and they travel to France because they got a tip that her father was in the attic of some guy's house, and it turns out they were right. Monsieur Defarge's house. So he's incredibly traumatized. He's like in the survival instinct of making shoes. That is all that he does, is make shoes. And Lucy's like, Dad, it's me. And he's like, I gotta make these shoes, man. And like, it takes a little while for him to snap out of it, but soon he figures out that this is his daughter, and he's like, oh my gosh, like, the sky has cleared. I'm reunited with my daughter, and he starts to feel better. And then they live in England together for a little while. And there's a time skip of a couple years, and there's a scene of Charles Darnay's trial because he's being accused of treason against the crown. And it's actually Lucy and her father that are testifying that he's not a traitor. He didn't commit treason. I know his character. He's fantastic. We met him on the ship back to England from France, and he was great. And he talked to my father, says Lucy, and helped him out and that kind of thing. And he gets let go. And Charles Darnay is like, oh my gosh, this woman basically saved my life because I would have been quartered if it weren't for her. I am like in love with her now. And Lucy, she's very popular. She is getting suitors from left and right, but she ultimately chooses Darnay. Sidney Carton is also in the mix because he was at the trial. He came around and drank with Charles Darnay after the trial. They became friends, and both of them started hanging out at Lucy and her father's house. Lucy's father was also a doctor, so I might start referring to him as the doctor as well, because that is how he's referred to in the book. But he doesn't practice medicine anymore. He's traumatized. He made shoes for a while, and now he's just being taken care of by his daughter. So for quite some time, Sidney Carton and Charles Darnay, they hang around at the Manette household, and both of them have taken quite a liking to Lucy. But it is Charles Darnay who ultimately wins the heart of Lucy and her father, since it's the father's job back in 1700s to say, yeah, sure, you can have my daughter. Lucy did technically accept because it was what her father wanted, and she was just like, yes, I accept, this is what my father wanted. And it ended up being a very good match. They ended up falling quite in love with each other, and it ended up being a really good match. But I just, wanted to bring up that in 2025 hindsight, we're seeing that and we're going, oh, love. While this is all happening, the French Revolution in France is starting up. And I wanted to pull a passage from the beginning signs of the French Revolution because I thought that it was very well written, and it was definitely one of the most interesting passages in my opinion. It says, one tall joker so besmirched his head more out of a long squalid bag of a nightcap than in it, scrawled upon a wall with his finger dipped in muddy wine. Blood. The time was to come when that wine too would be spilled on the street stones, and when the stain of it would be read upon many there. Like, it's so interestingly written. And this scene was when wine was spilled on the ground, and the hungry peasants are so ravenous that they scoop up the dirt with the wine in it and like eat it in order to get some sort of sustenance. It's just kind of a foreshadowing of what is to come. And it may be red wine now, but the red on the ground will not be wine forever. And it's just like, ooh, foreshadowing. And then like nothing happens in that regards until like later. But you kind of see the stuff going on in the background. And you see at first Madame and Monsieur Defarge as like these good guys who are like, we need to fight against this oppressive power that is leaving people so hungry and starving and in poverty. And it sounds like a good thing. And I will be honest, your girl did not know that much about the French Revolution before this. I knew that there were guillotines involved, but that's about it, like Marie Antoinette. But besides that, like, I just really didn't know a lot about it, except that people were starving and that the nobles got their heads cut off. But it was a lot more than the nobles. So stuff happens in like 2/3 of the book in the beginning, and it is interesting, and if you do want to read it, I definitely think you'll have a great time. But for a video like this, I don't think I will get super into detail because it really is the last third of the book that everything interesting like really happens, and it was like, oh, I can't put this book down type thing. So years and years and years go by. This is over the span of like 30 years. Lucy and Charles Darnay married now. They have a daughter also named Lucy, which I was kind of surprised about because I didn't realize that like they named kids after their mothers, but cool, little Lucy. They are happy, whatever, until Charles Darnay gets a letter in the mail, and it is that one of his old colleagues from France got wrongfully imprisoned and is awaiting his death. Super scary. And Charles is like, I cannot let this stand. And he's like, I have to go save this guy. I have to go back to France, but I can't tell anybody because I don't want people to worry, which is crazy. Tell people where you're going, especially your wife. Hello? But he goes to France. And once in France, he gets detained for being a traitor. They go, you lived in England. You're a traitor to the French. And he's like, I lived in England before this new regime happened, before the French Revolution happened. What's going on? And then Monsieur Defarge goes, yeah, well, we're like counting that. It wasn't illegal when you did it, but since you did do it, it's illegal now. Which is just a terrible thing to do, law-wise. And I'm really glad that these days, for the most part, things are in place in which that cannot happen. Though it seems like people in the government are trying to do stuff that kind of falls under that category. I won't get into it. So Charles gets detained, and Lucy's like, where is my husband? And I believe Mr. Lorry is the only one who knows. So he goes, actually, he's in France. And she goes, hello? So they travel to France, and they're like, let my husband go. And they're like, no. He's probably going to get the guillotine, which is scary. So they spend a lot of time in France fighting, and Dr. Manette is like, okay, well, I can really appeal to the people because I did a lot of work in my day helping a lot of people. Like, I can show people's humanity because, like, look, I helped you, you should help my son-in-law, that kind of thing. And they go through this trial, and they're like, yeah, fine, he can go. He was the only one that day in the trial who did not get the guillotine because the people of the French Revolution, they've gotten power hungry. They don't really care who's under the guillotine. They just want fresh blood every day. So many innocent people died in the French Revolution for quote-unquote crimes that were placed on them, even if it really was not worth death. They just wanted to kill as many people as possible, and they killed around 10,000 people during the French Revolution. I did not know that. I thought that was a very high number, and that is just my blind spot in history, I suppose. But whenever I asked other people, like, how many people did you think died in the French Revolution? They were like, oh, like 100,000? Like 1 million? No, not by guillotine. But yes, the people of the French Revolution were starting to get bloodlust, and it didn't really matter who was going under the blade as long as someone was. So Charles Darnay, he gets out, but not for long. They really kind of go LOL JK and take him again and go, no, actually we are going to execute you. And that's super scary, obviously, because he's like, I have a family. I have a wife and a child. Like, I have people that need me. I did nothing wrong. And he didn't do anything wrong. He moved to England when it was perfectly legal to move to England. But he is up for execution. Now, Sidney Carton, if you remember, did not care much for life, did not understand his meaning of life. He didn't understand his place in the world. And something comes over him saying, I love this family. I am going to take his place. So he sneaks into the prison and he switches clothes with Charles Darnay and he says, go, escape. You got this. Like, we have people that are helping. And he escaped. And Sidney Carton, as you may have guessed from the yassified photo, he gets the guillotine. And he has this almost euphoric sense of, oh, my life has meaning, my life has purpose, as he gets executed. And I think that that's just a beautiful character development from, oh, nothing matters and I'm going to get drunk all the time and like, I don't have a meaning in life, to I'm going to save a man for the sake of his family and the sake of people that I have come to care about. And that's beautiful. And the story ends of them all escaping to England and kind of people getting what's coming to them, good karma, bad karma. It's an old story, so like the ending isn't always as like satisfying as anyone would want, but it was still really good and I really enjoyed it. I rated this book, I think 4.75 stars. I don't think I would make it 5 just because, oh my goodness, like it is a dense book. Very good, very worth the time if you're at all interested in this plot, but it's super dense. Like, as you can see, it's not super thick, but the words are itty bitty. Like, it was good and it was very worth it. It just took a long time to read. I think that A Tale of Two Cities was the only book I read in March, if not April. I can't remember, but I remember the plot pretty well. So anyways, I would recommend this book to people who enjoy classics, history lovers, people who were at all interested in any of the spiel I said, people interested in the French Revolution, that sort of thing. So that is all for right now. Without further ado, this has been Moo. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.